Hi, I'm Kathy Thornhill, founder of Chat and Chew, and you're joining us at Chat and Chew Live, online. What's Chat and Chew? Well, it's a health study group of people who've come together because they're interested in taking care of their own health through some dietary changes. And we do that in a variety of ways. We provide information, we have demonstrations, we have speakers, both live and through Skypes. We also have meals together, we do tours together, we have friendship together to help each other as we meet our own personal goals. All of our meetings are based on the research and clinicians who have worked hard to determine what's the connection between diet and disease, the chronic diseases that Americans often get. And so one of those experts, Dr. John McDougall, he speaks to us about the importance of beginning the right way, and that is that if you are filling your plates with lots and lots of plants and lots of starches, you'll want to add a B12 supplement to your diet. Also, he suggests that if you're sick, if you're on medication, you check with your medical provider first, because diet is powerful medicine. And that's something you might want to do, is be sure they're in the loop and they know what you're doing. It doesn't hurt to check with your medical provider even when you change your exercise habits. So that's a good thing to do anyway. Now, you'll be watching Chat on Chew in live, and you might wonder, what am I going to do with this information? Well, I might meet my own personal goals, but it might be fun to pull in a couple of friends, like some of our people who watch these meetings through Livestream. And you could even do what one in California, Jolynn, did. She invited a couple friends and they each brought something to eat, something healthy, as they chat and chew. Or you might want to start your own health study group. You name it what you want. So, let's get started. Our topic today is how to avoid chronic diseases and build a healthy microbiome. Links between our digestive tract and diseases like cancer, heart disease, and all that will be discussed. Our speaker is Dr. Michael Klaper. He's a recognized teacher and speaker internationally and has 40 years of practice in medicine where he's looked at nutrition and disease. And he brings that information to us. It comes from a background of practicing medicine in different areas, like he was an anesthesiologist, he worked as an emergency room doctor, and he's even been an advisor to NASA on nutrition for long-term space flight and colonies in places like the moon and Mars. Now he's on the staff at True North Health Center and sees patients regularly. Now, what we did before we talked with Dr. Klaper during our Skype was we watched a video that he had made the presentation from the operating table to the dining room table. You can find that video, a link to it below, and you can go take a look at it. We suggest you look at just one part and then come back here for the actual question and answer time with Dr. Klaper. The video section we recommend you watch is from 45 minutes and 52 seconds to 1 hour and 10 minutes. So take a look at that and then come back to this website and you can actually hear Dr. Klaper answer questions. Welcome back. We're ready now to go into our question and answer period with Dr. Klaper. This session, part of the session, begins with Dr. Klaper opening a package that we sent to him from Chat and Chew, and it has a quote on the front from Dr. Klaper's work. So let's take a look at this question and answer Skype.
Oh my. It's the food. It's a t-shirt that says it's the food. It's been the food all along. That's that's brilliant. Uh, so unless you come to my office, you won't appreciate. But in my patients who sit in front of me all day, I have a nutritionally based practice. And they sit in front of me overweight with high blood pressure and diabetes and clogged arteries, inflamed joints and asthma and eczema. And doctor, how did I get these conditions? You know, what was it, my bad genes or whatever? And I have a plaque behind me that a patient gave me that says the truth in 3 words. It's the food that you've been eating. It's been the food all along. And so, which is the truth of it in modern America today. So this is just a classic. This is just a great one. I may wear this one to work, and save me a lot of times. I sit down in front of my patients here. Thank you very much. Chat and chew. It says in the back. Yay! Brilliant, brilliant. At least warm. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. I have a plaque behind me that a patient gave me that says the truth in 3 words. It's the food that you've been eating. It's been the food all along. And so, which is the truth of it in modern America today. So this is just a classic. This is just a great one. I may wear this. You bet. I guess this afternoon there now. Good afternoon. Save me a lot of time. I sit down in front of my patients here. Thank you very much. Chat and chew. It says in the back. Yay! Brilliant, brilliant. At least warm. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Well, when you say clarity of your skin, in what way? Do you have eczema or acne pimples, or what is the issue about your skin? You bet. I guess this afternoon there now. Good afternoon. Okay. Um, in order to get healthy skin oils, psoriasis, two things. One, the skin is dry, and second, it's rapidly dividing. The cells are rapidly dividing, and they're coming up from the bottom faster than they can be sloughed off on the top, and so these scales and thickenings build up. Two things will help that. One, we're finding out now, and my dear colleague Dr. McDougall and I we're congruent in most every point except this one, and that has to do with vitamin D. We're finding out, Dr. McDougall says it doesn't make bones stronger, doesn't reverse osteoporosis, so he doesn't believe in it. But he's right on that score. Osteoporosis is not a vitamin D deficiency, so it wouldn't reverse that. But we're now learning that vitamin D is involved in hundreds of reactions, and it stabilizes membranes. And folks with psoriasis and parapsoriasis often have low levels of vitamin D. And for that reason, one thing to start with would be to get a vitamin D supplement. Probably in your case, around 3,000 to 5,000 international units a day. The liquids usually have 1,000 international units per drop. So it's 3 drops, 3 or 4 drops on your tongue. I would do that every day for a number of months. I'll talk to you about that. It would have to be, given how long it takes the skin to change over, you'd have to do this at least for 3 months before you're going to see a big difference. But definitely get your vitamin D level up. You want it over between 40 and 70 nanograms. And so I would have a blood test done after you've been on it for about 3 months just to see where it's at. So some vitamin D would probably help. And it's important to get the oils in the skin nice and lubricating. And so I'm a fan of taking some additional omega-3 fatty acid, DHA and EPA, and 300 milligrams of DHA. Get in any health food store or online. So I would get some vitamin D and some DHA on board, about 90 days worth. You want to very gently in the shower take a washcloth or a loofah and very gently, don't abrade the skin, but help any skin that wants to slough off there to exit from the surface of the skin there. And if you do that, and I would wear very soft shirts, cotton shirts underneath there, because you don't want your fiber from, especially synthetic shirts and all that, from rubbing on the skin. There's no accident that it's on your back. That's the surface that contacts not only your shirt, but the car seat when you're driving, and it gets hot and sweaty back there, and we rub on it. So some nice cotton t-shirts would help cushion the skin a bit. So get some vitamin D on board, some omega-3 fatty acid, DHA, and wear some cotton shirts. And by, what's this, January? By springtime, by March, April, May, you ought to be saying, hey, it's better back there. So that's what I would suggest. You're welcome. Vitamin D is also made by sunshine, so you should get some of that on your skin too. Oh,
Keep it up throughout?
oh, good question. Okay, so a couple of things in that question, and we're learning how important it is to culture a really friendly set of microbes down in your gut there. And when you take these antibiotics, they put a dent in the population of the beneficial organisms. It doesn't kill them off completely. The microbiome is pretty hardy, but it does suppress them for a while. So it's a good idea after you take a course of antibiotics to take some probiotics for a good couple of weeks or a month after that. The question was one of timing and should you be taking the probiotic with the antibiotic? If it's just a short course, just 5 days, I would wait till you're through with the antibiotic and take the probiotic. And I like people to take the probiotic on an empty stomach, about an hour before breakfast, before their stomach fills up with stomach acid and kills the bacteria. So if it's a short course, 3 days, 5 days, wait till after the antibiotic is through. But if it's something that's prolonged, that you've got a significant infection, that you're going to be on it for a couple of weeks, then you should start on the probiotic while you're on the antibiotic. But you don't take them at the same time during the day. If you're taking the antibiotic, say before breakfast, before dinner, then take the probiotic in the middle of the day before lunch there. So again, timing in life is everything. If it's a short course, wait till after the antibiotic's done. A long course, start on it, but again, not at the same time during the day.
Great, thank you. I know that some people take probiotics regularly, and they are quite expensive. Is it doing them any good when they are on an antibiotic?
Oh, that's an important question, and it reflects back to the previous question. Now, just at the end there, when you said when they're on an antibiotic, again, it's probably good if they're on that antibiotic chronically, but boy, you sure want to clear up any condition that's making you be on an antibiotic chronically. And again, that depends on your diet and your lifestyle and all of that. But in general, your question is, for regular healthy folks not on antibiotics, should they be taking probiotics every day? No, there's no need for that. First of all, realize that the microbes, the microbiome that lives in our intestines, they're determined by the food we eat. If you eat a bunch of sugar, you're going to summon up sugar-eating bacteria. You eat meat every day, you're going to summon up carnitine-eating bacteria. These are not friendly microbes to have thriving in your gut. The most important thing is the food you're eating rather than just taking some probiotic pills to hope everything goes okay down there. As you say, they're expensive. And if the diet is fostering unfriendly microbes, that's really what has to be focused on. And along with that, if you're trying to foster good microbes down there, you don't want to be eating or consuming things that kill off those microbes. Chicken and most beef, they feed these animals antibiotics in the feedlots, and it's still in the chicken flesh and the beef flesh when you eat it. Second, drinking alcohol. That glass of wine with dinner. Well, in the hospital, we dip our surgical instruments into alcohol to kill bacteria. And here we are, people drinking the stuff, and that doesn't do good things for your microbes either. So, so the meat, the alcohol. If your drinking water smells of chlorine, which they're putting in there to keep you from getting real sick, if you're drinking chlorinated drinking water, you might want to get a filter or something. Take that chlorine out of there as well. Those are the three major things. Oh, soft drinks, colas and all that with their phosphoric acid and sugars, that also upsets the microbes. So stop doing things that injure your microbiome, the meat, the alcohol, etc. I just talked about, and eat a whole food plant-based diet to foster the really good guys. And it's been shown that a whole food plant-based diet, whole food, rice and beans, etc., not granola bars and energy drinks, but really whole foods, they foster within weeks a really healthy microbiome. So eat the healthy food and don't kill off your bacteria. And you sure don't need to take probiotics every day. If you do, save those for when you've been on an antibiotic. That's the best use of them.
Great. Jolynn in California also is impressed by your 4S's: salad, soup, starch, and steamed veggies. So I thought I'd just share that with the group here, unless you'd like to elaborate on that at all.
Well, just when people want to eat healthy and you walk into the kitchen or you look in the fridge or in the pantry, well, what is a healthy lunch? What is a healthy dinner? This is on my website. You can go to drklaper.com and see my healthy eating guide. But basically, how do I put together a healthy lunch or dinner? Well, a hearty vegetable soup, and I'm a big fan, especially in these winter months, of having a big crock pot full of vegetable chili or curry or hearty vegetable stew on the counter there. But these vegetable soups are a great way to fill you up with really healthy things. We need fresh live vegetables. Have a big salad at least once a day, if not twice a day. You need some energy. You need some healthy starches and quinoa and potatoes and rice, etc. And then you got to have those steamed green and yellow vegetables for all the phytonutrients and the antioxidants. So steam up some kale or broccoli, etc. So a bowl of hearty soup, a big salad, some steamed green and yellow vegetables, and a healthy starch. That's the foundation to any healthy lunch or healthy dinner. So that's where the 4S's are. And again, if you go to drklaper.com, it's all spelled out: DOCTORKLAPER.com. You'll see my healthy eating guide in the question and answer section.
We'll have that in the email as well, the one that he's just
Great.
talking about for the 4S's. Oh, we've got a question. Yes.
Ask him about fermented vegetables.
Oh, yes. Talk about fermented vegetables, Dr. Klaper.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm all for them. Now they've got a whole lore about them and a whole mythology. And we're talking about things like sauerkraut and kimchi and vegetables that are made with using fermentation to preserve them, and they're lovely. But in ancient times, where these foods really came from is, in the Middle Ages, there was no refrigeration. There was no way to preserve food. So they would chop up the cabbages they would grow in their garden and add some salt and put it out in a big porcelain vat. And bacteria from the air would settle down in the porcelain vat and start them fermenting. And that would kill off the other bacteria. The fermentation creates lactic acid that kills off the other bacteria that would spoil the cabbage or whatever. And that's what sauerkraut and these various other fermented foods are about. And because bacterial fermentation's involved, that you used to get a whole lot of wonderful bacteria in there that when people ate them, it would help reseed their microbiome. And so that's where the lore comes from. Well, you want a healthy microbiome, eat a lot of fermented foods. But again, welcome to the 21st century. Today's modern commercial fermented sauerkrauts, etc. They either use just a very small little selection of bacteria. A lot of them are just they're sterile. They get pasteurized, or the fermentation kills off the live bacteria in there. So they've lost some of their classic luster. But again, why are you really eating them? They're part of a whole food plant-based diet. But if you're eating cheeseburgers and French fries and drinking, cola drinks, but I'm going to have my sauerkraut, it's going to keep me healthy in there. Well, you're kidding yourself. You can't ask these fermented foods to make up for a fundamentally unhealthy diet. But if you are already eating a whole food plant-based diet, then absolutely they're a lovely addition to have to your table. A few times a week. I wouldn't eat huge amounts of them every day. They're fairly acidic and fairly salty, but they're a nice adjunct to a healthy, whole food, health-supporting plant-based diet.
Wait a minute, Jerry.
I like to use.
Oh, there's a follow-up. Can you?
If you make it at home, does it then have good probiotics for you?
Did you hear that? If you make it at home, does it have good probiotics then?
They should, absolutely. Again, I'm not a expert in sauerkraut making, and it depends. Sometimes if you have to like the brewers and the vintners making wine, there comes a point you've got to stop the fermentation, or else it'll turn into vinegar on you. And in making these fermented foods, there might come a time where you've got to stop the fermentation. And does that kill off the bacteria? Can't tell you. Again, that's not my bailiwick there. But I'm sure on the internet you could find out the actual microbial counts of fermented foods. It also depends. I imagine you probably add some type of starter, some type of bacterial starter to make the fermentation happen. And if you got good guys in there, again, how much of it really after the food really turns acidic, which is what's happening. That lovely bacteria Acidophilus. Its full name is Lactobacillus acidophilus. Acidophilus, its name means it loves acid, and the reason why it works is that Lactobacillus acidophilus will survive in a pH of 5 or 4, very acidic, but it kills off the competition. So you may only wind up with just Lactobacillus there, which is not bad. It's a nice bacteria, but how much of it you really have and whether it's active, whether it's really helping, nobody's done those kinds of studies I'm aware of. But again, it's the food, it's the food, it's the food. But it's a lovely thing to do.
Gary, you want to ask you?
Yeah, I like to use rice wine vinegar on a salad.
So do
What
I.
is-
Lovely.
oh, okay. Is it?
Yeah,
am I
I'm
doing
for
good
it.
or bad for that?
Oh, I think it's fine. First of all, I mean, how much you really use? A teaspoon, a couple, a tablespoon of this stuff. It's going to have zero real effect adversely one way or the other in your down your tummy there. But the reason why I'm a big fan of flavored vinegars of all types, balsamic vinegar, you go into the supermarket these days, there's walls full of flavored vinegars. I'm a big fan of them because it keeps people from using the salty barbecue sauces and foods that add a whole lot of processed sugars and salt to their diet in the form of dressings, salad dressings, and various other types of sauces. So if a few drops of rice vinegar helps your salad, yay, that's a good thing to do.
I eat a vegan diet. I have osteoporosis. I have several friends who have been making homemade bone broth with lots of veggies, and they have reversed their osteoporosis. So now I'm wondering what I need to do better or differently. Is this a consideration for me? Because I would like to reverse my osteoporosis.
Well, that's a most interesting question and a little surprising news to me in that osteoporosis is not a disease of calcium deficiency or even a vitamin D deficiency. And on my website, drklaper.com, if you go to the webinar section, I've done a very extensive webinar on this one called Healthy Bones, and I go into the reality of osteoporosis. And overwhelmingly, the reason why people's bones are dissolving in our society is that we're not using them. We used to spend 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting in an air-conditioned room watching a video screen. We'd be out in the field harvesting our vegetables, carrying firewood up on the roof, putting shingles on, using heavy tools in the garden, carrying heavy buckets of soil, using spades. And all these physical tasks make a force lines of force go down our bones, and it wakes up our bone producing cells called osteoblasts, and they spit out new bone. It's called bone remodeling. In first year physiology class in med school, everybody learns about Wolff's law that says the more you use bones, the stronger they get. It's quite analogous to muscles. You use your muscles, they get stronger, they hypertrophy. You stop using them, they atrophy. And osteoporosis is largely disuse atrophy of the bones. So our bones are dissolving because we sit all day. We sit at our meals. We sit in front of the TV. We sit in the car. We sit at work. We sit, and our bones are dissolving. It's atrophy. And you can reverse it, as I mentioned in my video there. And the reason why light, petite women like you are, and you only weigh 105, 110, whatever, female folks ask because of your weight, which is wonderful, which is great. I'm not saying get obese, but you ask so little of your skeleton as you walk that no gravitational stresses get placed upon it, and you're probably not out doing a whole lot of physical work. In my Healthy Bones webinar, I say, listen, you want to turn osteoporosis around? You can. Those osteoblasts that make new bone, they're still in your bones. They're waiting for you to ask them to spin out new bone. And off the internet, you get a little weighted vest that has pockets in it, and you pop in a couple of pounds of lead weight, get a little 3-pound hand weight in each hand. You go out for a nice walk, and every step you take, a little wow of weight goes down your spine and down your hips and down your leg bones, and it wakes up the osteoblast. And, oh, we better spin out new bones here. And every week or two, you add another couple of pounds to the vest, so you get up to 10 pounds or so. You take a walk, you take a 20 to 40 minute walk every other day with a 8 or 10 pound weighted vest and a couple of pound hand weights each hand. I guarantee you that bone density is going to start going up. It's really hard for me to believe that drinking bone broth, this magical elixir that has become so popular, it's dead. First of all, there's nothing in it that's going to stimulate bone production that I know of. And I would love to see those ladies' DEXA scans before and after. I want them, when they say I reverse osteoporosis, I've got a healthy dose of skepticism about that. I'd really like to see those scans because there's the only way, eating the muscle of a bull is not going to suddenly make your bones stronger. You got your muscles stronger. You got to go to the gym and do the physical work. There's nothing magic about just eating the muscles and making your own muscles getting bigger. And the same thing, eating somebody else's bone not going to make your bones bigger. Eating someone's brain is not going to make you smarter. I'm highly dubious of their claim. And if you go to, I hope Kathy turns you on to a very important website called nutritionfacts.org, nutritionfacts.org. And in it, Dr. Michael Greger explores the nutritional literature and makes these little 3-minute videos, 5-minute videos. Well, watch his little video on bone broth, and you'll see that the animals are drinking water, they're eating grass near highways, etc. There's lead and arsenic in the water. These animals are fed in the grass near the freeways, etc. And the animals ingest it, and it winds up in their bones. And they've done the analysis of bone broth preparations, and the lead content and the arsenic content of the bone broth is alarmingly high. And so before looking at bone broth, another easy, quick way to make my bones stronger, I'm highly skeptical. I'd like to see their DEXA scans. You want to make your bones stronger, use them. Take them out for a walk every day with a little bit of gravitational stress on them, and they'll get stronger as the months go by. So seriously, if you want to ask to see their scans, and you can black out their name, but email them to me. I'd like to have a look at that and exactly know how they prepared that bone broth, because I'm highly skeptical of those claims. You're welcome.
Dr. Klaper, I'm Nanette, and
Yes.
we met you on the cruise. We've all
Yeah,
learned,
we
and
sure
we've got a
did.
lot of people who are here, and they'll be coming back. So my question, if you look
good.
over there to your right, after you go, they've asked me to speak about moving as an older person, and I just ran a half marathon. But anyway, what I want to ask you, and we'll talk, but the reason I have been reading, thank you, I have been reading and watching your videos, and the one was heal yourself and heal the world. And you mentioned the word, did anybody know what an iconoclast is? And yes, I want to be one, and I want to encourage people to, in a good way, as they watch us eat and watch us move. And would you share a little bit about what you said on that video about moving and the changing the people and not eating the meat, but going ahead and eating the proper food and saving the planet? Our animals, not eating the animals. And all that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's such a powerful question. Well, thank you. It means a lot to me too. an iconoclast. The clasto means to break up. We have bones we have cells in our bones that destroy old bones. They're osteoclasts. So an iconoclast breaks down the icons. They pull down the idols in the temple. And so someone who breaks with previous accepted beliefs is an iconoclast. And the accepted belief that I think we need to pull off their pedestal is that every meal has to be centered around a piece of animal flesh. That's not a complete meal, no protein. And the idea that that protein only comes from meat and dairy products is not only factually wrong on every level. The biggest, strongest animals on the planet, elephants, buffaloes, giraffes, gorillas, grow to thousands of pounds of mammalian muscle without ever eating flesh. The amino acids, the protein, it's all in the plants. It's in the grains and the legumes and the nuts and the seeds and the fruits and the vegetables. You'll never see a gorilla in line at McDonald's for a Big Mac. They have no need for that. But in pursuing that, and the nutritional guidelines, meat in every meal. Who's making up the nutritional guidelines? If you look down, you'll see in the right-hand corner of the poster who's making them up. You'll see USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, makes up the nutritional guidelines for our nation. I have to ask, what is the Agriculture Department doing making up the nutrition guidelines? What do you think they're going to say? They exist to promote the sale of meat and dairy products. That's what the Agriculture Department does. So of course they're going to tell you to have meat and dairy at every meal. But the reality is, well, we see the reality. Americans are more obese and sick and moribund than they've ever been. That kind of diet is a diet of death. If you want to give yourself colon cancer, pack a colon full of meat 2-3 times a day. You want to clog your arteries, drop animal flesh down your intestines, summon up bacteria that produce trimethylamine, and that stuff will drive cholesterol into your artery walls. A diet based on dead animals turns you into a dead animal, and we've got lots of scientific proof supporting that. But beyond that, what's behind your question, it's turning out that if you care about this planet, and if you've got kids, you've got grandchildren, I got little nephews and nieces, it's turning out that every single environmental threat that we face in the immediate future, the global warming, the rising of the sea levels, the deforestation, water depletion, water pollution, soil erosion, every single one of them is driven by the industrial production of animal flesh. That's why the forests are being cut down to make grazing land and cropland grow corn and soybeans to shovel down the gullet of animals. That's why the soil is eroding. It's eroding off of corn and soybean fields destined for cheeseburgers and animal flesh. Most of the water in this country goes to irrigating alfalfa and corn and soybeans for cheeseburgers and hot dogs and fried chicken. That's where the water's going. As far as pollution, most waterways are polluted by animal manure, herbicides, and pesticides. The animal manure is coming off feedlots and dairy installations. The herbicides and pesticides are sprayed on corn and soybean fields, not to make tofu and corn dogs. I'll tell you, it's to shovel down the gullets of animals to turn into burgers and fried chicken. And when you are in the restaurant and you turn to the waiter, I'll have the beef, I'll have the chicken, I'll have the veal, I'll have the turkey. Every time you say that, your kids, your grandchildren's world becomes a little deader, a little hotter, a little drier. And we have to stop pretending these foods, they're just in the supermarket and they're produced by the meat producers, yay. They're coming out of our soils, your forests, your waters, your kids' futures. And if you want to learn the importance of this, please get a book by Dr. Richard Oppenlander called Comfortably Unaware. Comfortably Unaware. It is a life-changing book that lays out in very specific detail the fact that it's very nice we're told to get solar panels and electric cars. But every year on planet Earth, We raise, slaughter, and consume 70 billion living animals. Every one of these are breathing out carbon dioxide. They're all belching out methane. The fertilizers sprayed on the fields to grow crops to feed them are all nitrogen, ammonia based, and they are leaching nitrous oxide into the air. These are the three main global warming gases: methane, carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide. And Oppenlander makes it very clear in that book. You can put solar panels on everybody's house. You can give solar electric cars to everybody on the planet. If we continue to raise these 70 billion animals with their carbon dioxide, their methane, all the nitrogen being pumped into the atmosphere, you can take all the shorter showers you want. You can generate all the solar electricity you want. The atmosphere is going to keep on getting warmer and warmer and warmer. All these wonderful energy conservation steps we're being told to take must go hand in hand with evolution to a plant-based diet. It's the one thing we can all do. You know, it's how are you going to get solar panels in everybody's house? You can talk about the money. But the simple thing that we can all do is order the bean chili instead of the beef chili. You know, it doesn't cost a thing, but it would change everything. And even just to have meat once or twice a week. Have these. You don't have to become a vegan, but get it down to once or twice a week. It should be a rarity on your plate instead of every single meal revolving around a piece of animal. Bacon and eggs for breakfast, cheeseburgers for chicken for dinner. This is what's killing us as people, and it's what's killing our future. Didn't used to be that way. Only since World War II, we got wealthy enough to produce all this flesh with a lot of government subsidies to the corn and soybean farmers and the meat producers to pay for their water, etc. Back in the in the 1700s, 1800s, people lived on farms, and you had maybe pot roast on Sunday and fish on Friday, and that was it. You ate out of your garden. You had potato soups and cabbage stews, and you didn't go killing your chickens every night for buffalo wings. I'll tell you, you run out of chickens pretty quickly, and so there is a huge, existentially threatening, environmentally catastrophic component to evolving to a plant-based diet. This is not just about lowering or making your bowels work better. Yes, that will both happen. But we are all connected, and there's 7.5 billion people on this planet. No matter what hunting and all that was in ancient times, doesn't matter. We've used that up. I don't care what I always grew up eating this. It was an aberration because we were rich when you and I all grew up after World War II. Whatever, there was money around to do this. We can't afford it. The soils are depleted. The forests are disappearing. The atmosphere is getting warmer. We've run out of time for this. So again, it's beyond just cholesterol levels, and I urge you to become educated about it and see how important this topic is.
Thank you so much. To think about there. You mentioned one thing that I was hoping you could bring up today, and that was TMAO in that Cleveland Clinic study. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of heart disease and the bacteria in our gut? I mean, that's taking it back to us personally, but if you don't mind, can we go back and talk about heart disease now?
Very important. We're learning a lot about what causes clogging of our arteries and leads to heart attacks and strokes. And we thought just you eat cholesterol and it sticks to your artery walls. It's way more complex than that, though the solution is simple: stop eating this stuff. But it's turning out, and one thing that's so shockingly distressing about the paleo diet craze. Our caveman ancestors just eat meat, which is an illusion. They didn't eat flesh, like they are describing. Every Neanderthal had a mastodon in the freezer and spent all day eating mammoth meat. No. It turns out when you actually analyze the fecal droppings from the ancient Neanderthals, it was full of fiber. The majority of calories that came into the Paleolithic camp were gathered by the women, who spent all day pulling up roots and tubers and gathering grasses and berries and acorns and nuts. Once again, the women got us through. The most hunts were unsuccessful. The guys came back empty-handed on most days. If they did bag a carcass, it rotted within days. There was no refrigeration. The idea that they'd meat all the time, it was an illusion, never happened. But now it's the craze because people like the way that flesh tastes in your mouth. So people are eating more and more meat. Well, this is not benign. It turns out, as I mentioned earlier, the food you eat determines the bacteria that live in your gut. And meat, animal muscle, has this molecule called carnitine, and it's needed for energy production in the animal muscle. Well, folks who eat meat 3 times a day are dropping down bolts of carnitine every meal. Well, you summon up carnitine-eating bacteria there. And they don't care about you. They're waiting for that next piece of salmon or chicken to come down, because they will turn that carnitine into stuff called trimethylamine. And so what? Well, that stuff goes through your liver, and your liver turns it into trimethylamine oxide. This is a molecule from hell. This drives cholesterol into your artery walls and is a major contributor to plaque in the artery that leads to heart attacks and strokes. And these folks eating all this meat, these are, I'll put a $100 bill on the table, you're going to start seeing the reports. This guy drops dead on the treadmill at 49. Oh, he looks so healthy and all ripped abdominal muscles. But in his arteries, he was an old man. And you're going to see paleo diet associated with heart attacks, paleo diet associated with colon cancer, paleo diet associated with autoimmune diseases. There's lots of mechanisms by which a high meat diet produces all these diseases. But she's asking about this TMAO stuff. Another, as I mentioned earlier, food you eat determines the bacteria that live in your gut. In this experiment, they gave people, classic meat-eating folks, a piece of meat, and their TMAO levels went skyrocketed right after the meal. No surprise, those bacteria love to produce that. But then they took a group of vegans who'd been eating plants all along and gave them a big piece of steak to eat. And they ate the steak, and guess what? There was no TMAO in their blood because they haven't spawned the bacteria down their guts that produce the stuff. And that's another reason why a plant-based diet largely protects you from the heart attacks and strokes and all the blood vessel clogging, because the microbes are friendly to you, not the ones that produces TMAO stuff. There's more to the artery clogging story than just this, but it's one more factor. We are not carnivorous apes. We're not. You look in the mirror, your canine teeth are shorter than your central incisors in front. Look at your house cat. There's a real carnivore. Their canines are much longer than their central incisors. We're not carnivores. And when we try to eat the diet of a carnivore, we suffer terrible consequences. Your house cat does not produce TMAO. And for a number of reasons. They're meant to eat that stuff. We're not, and it's contributing to the epidemic of sudden death and strokes that we're seeing here. So the meat produces the bacteria that turns meat into TMAO, and that raises cholesterol plaques in your arteries, is the chain of events that happens there.
And Barbara's got another question.
On the vegan diet, are there any nutrients that a person would not be getting from the vegan diet that need to be supplemented in some way? And if so, what's the best way to do that?
Good for you. Very perceptive question. Officially, the only substance that today's modern person eating a plant-based diet would have to supplement is vitamin B12. This is an absolutely essential vitamin. You need it to keep your brain and your spinal cord healthy. Without it, people get anemias and dementias, and it's a terrible thing. You need some B12. And when people hear this, they say, aha, if a plant-based diet was complete, why do I have to take a supplement? And I'll eat my meat because that shows that I'll get my B12 that way. Yeah, you will. But guess what? Cows don't make vitamin B12. Chickens don't make it. No animal makes it. Vitamin B12 is made by bacteria that live in the soil. And cows and deer and antelope are grazing all day, and they're pulling up clumps of grass that have soil particles clinging to the roots. And in these soil particles are the bacteria that create vitamin B12. And the cow or the antelope eats the soil particles, and in their gut, the organisms produce the B12 that's absorbed into the animal's muscles. And yes, you can shoot the cow and strip off the flesh off its bones and eat the muscle. No, get your B12. But the cow didn't make it. That was bacterial B12 all along. And as far as supplementation, why do we have to supplement? Well, we used to get our B12 the very same way for millions of years, all day. As I mentioned, we were foraging for our food, and we would pull up roots and tubers, and we'd maybe knock it on our pants, our leg once or twice to shake off the big dirt clumps, and then we'd put it in our mouth and we'd eat it. We would get the same B12 producing organisms flowing through our intestine. When we were thirsty, we'd find the nearest stream, and we'd drop down and we drink the stream water. There'd be B12 in the stream water. When we were living earth-connected lives, those same B12 producing organisms were flowing through our intestines just like the other animals. There was no need for B12 supplementation back then. But welcome to the 21st century. Nobody's eating unwashed vegetables anymore. They're all scrubbed with chlorinated water that kills bacteria. Nobody's drinking out of streams anymore. All our drinking water has chlorine added, which is fine. I don't want to treat cases of cholera or typhoid fever, but it kills off the bacteria that produce B12. So it's because modern sanitation has eliminated the natural B12 sources from our lives. It's for that reason that the person who's not eating flesh needs to take a little hit of B12 once a week. You can put a squirt of it under your tongue. Any health food store, you get a little micro dots. You just put one on your tongue and dissolves there once a week. So that's the major concession that people who are only plant-based, you got to have a B12 source these days. They add it to soy milks, they add it to veggie burgers these days. It's around, but I urge everyone on a plant-based diet to get a reliable source of vitamin B12. The form that I like it's used is methylcobalamin, and get it in some form at least once or twice a week. There are other things that you need to be concerned about. Iodine for your thyroid if you're not eating fish. It's around in vegetables, etc. To make a long story short, I put all of this on a webinar. Go to my website, drklaper.com, and in the webinar section, you'll see a webinar entitled Thriving on a Plant-Based Diet. Thriving on a Plant-Based Diet. And I go into all of these, the calcium and iodine, et cetera, et cetera. But B12 is the only official ones. The rest, look at my webinar, and you'll see my advice on making sure you get all the other ones.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll send people to that website so you can see the other resources, because there's also a page on the 4 S's that I think you'll find helpful too. Okay. We've got one last question. Peas, beans, and lentils are all considered high in protein. What can be done to counteract the gassy effect from them?
All right. We wouldn't be able to talk about a vegan diet without somebody bringing up the intestinal gas. Gee, where are all the jokes going to go after people get past this? Okay, so what's up with that? A couple of things. First of all, I suggest on my website watch another presentation called Digestion Made Easy, and I talk about keeping your digestive system healthy. And in that video, we talk about the gas problem. Turns out that most of the gas in the intestine is not made by bacteria fermenting sugars on the surface of beans and lentils. Most of the gas, and especially people eating plant-based diet, most of it's swallowed air. There's a what? Swallowed air. Yeah, in a forkful of rice, there's air between the grains of rice. In a forkful of salad, there's air between the leaves of salad, the leaves of lettuce. In a floret of broccoli, there's air down the floret of broccoli. And we're talking and shoveling the food in, and we're not chewing our food. We swallow all this air. And once the air is in your stomach, it's going to go one of two places. It's going to go up or going to go down. You either release it discreetly from above, or it's going to go down and give you gas distension, and you pass a lot of gas and make a lot of jokes with your friend, and you blame the beans. But the truth is, it's swallowed air from not appreciating the air in the food. In that video, I mentioned how important it is to chew our food well, to break down the cell walls of the plant so we can absorb all the goodies, all the proteins and vitamins, minerals in the plant food. So I tell people, chew your food to a cream before you swallow it. But one advantage of that is chewing your food to a puree like that forces the air out of the food. And one benefit is if you slow down, Put a fork full of salad in your mouth, put the fork down, make salad puree in your mouth before you swallow it. You'll taste it more. And you swallow, you're going to swallow a lot less air, and you're going to have a lot less of the gas issue there. So slow down, chew your food. That alone will markedly cut down the amount of intestinal gas that you have to deal with, and you'll stop blaming the beans and the lentils. That said, 20 to 30% of the gas in the intestine is made by the fermentation of bacteria. On the surface of the beans and the lentils, there's a sugar called hemicellulose, and some bacteria will turn this into carbon dioxide and methane and produce gas from it. A couple of things. First of all, those bacteria change as you are on a plant-based diet. As the weeks and months go by, people find that the gas problem gets much better because the bacteria have changed into less gas-producing ones. So know that the time is on your side when it comes to that, and don't let some initial increased gas production put you, this diet makes me gassy, you can't eat it. Hang in there, and start with small amount, just a tablespoon or two of lentil stew to start with. That's enough. And every time you eat the beans or the lentils, increase the quantity just a little bit, but give your gut bacteria time to change over. Don't have a huge bowl of bean chili and set off a lot of gas production and say, this diet doesn't work. See, slow down, small amounts, introduce them slowly. And finally, that sugar on the surface of the beans and the lentils, it dissolves in water, it's soluble sugar. And so if you're going to be making bean soup or bean chili, the night before, take the beans or the lentils and put them in a bowl, cover them with fresh water, let them sit overnight. Most of the sugar, the hemicellulose, will dissolve into the water. The next morning, spill off the soaking water, rinse the beans a couple of times, and you'll get rid of most of that sugar that turns into the gas problem. So to make the gas problem more manageable, slow down, chew your food really well, introduce the legumes in small amounts and gradually increase them. Rinse them if you're going to the night before, or soak them and then rinse them the next day to get rid of most of the hemicellulose. And realize time is on your side. The benefits you get from including these legumes in a whole food plant-based diet is so great that they are protein express trains, and you once a day you need something. There's some dish that has some legumes in it, whether it's lentil stew or a bean burrito or a hummus sandwich or a bean soup or chili. You really want to include these into your diet. They're just wonderful, wonderful foods, and they take up the space that people use meat for to get their protein. Though everything has protein: quinoa, lentils, all grains, all fruits, everything's got protein in it. It's not an issue. Everybody should relax on their protein anxiety, but enjoy the legumes.
Great. So we won't worry about the gas. we're gonna address it. Okay. One last thing. In the video we watched, from operating table to dining room table, you listed the probiotics, or excuse me, the good bacteria. And we can go back, because I'm going to send everybody that video and watch for it. But is there a list on your website of those bacteria? Okay.
Yes. If you go to the Q&A section, I've got a question: is your probiotic alive? And it talks about what constitutes a good probiotic, and is it alive? It may have been alive when it left the factory in Omaha, but if it got stored in an unrefrigerated warehouse for 6 weeks in Indianapolis before it got shipped to the store, you may have dead powder there. How do you tell if those bacteria are still viable? And I cover that in the article. So go to my website and see, is your probiotic alive, in the Q&A section of the website. It has the names of the bacteria there.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, we need to, whoops, wait a minute, we've got 3 questions all of a sudden. You got them going. We got to make them quick, because we got to go to some. What? Go ahead.
You got the time, you got the tofu.
I wondered if the doctor would say a word about diverticulitis.
Oh, good. Can you talk about diverticulitis?
Yeah, when people eat the standard Western diet full of meat and dairy, the problem, there's no fiber in animal muscle. There's no fiber in dairy product, cheese, etc. And so the colon needs a mass of fiber to get a purchase on to push the fecal mass along. If that fiber's not there, by the time you eat a meat meal, white bread on a burger on white bread, by the time it gets down to the colon, you got tiny little balls of stool that are very hard. The colon can't get a purchase on them to move them along, so it has to squeeze extra hard. And as the colon squeezes really hard, if there's any weak spots in the wall of the colon is a tube of muscle. If there's any weak spot, the inner lining herniates through the weak spot, and you start getting these pouches sprouting out on the wall of the colon. These are diverticuli. They can get plugged up with food material and get infected, and that's called diverticulitis. Serious business. Put you on an operating table or worse. And so the doctors don't eat tomatoes because the seeds get stuck there. That's not the issue. What you need is a whole food plant-based diet with lots of grains and bananas and quinoa and fruits and vegetables. And the stools start getting bulky and soft and easy to pass. And because the colon doesn't have to generate these high pressures to move the fecal mass along, the pressure that's holding these diverticuli open goes down, and guess what? The diverticuli close up. And as the months and years go by, most of these diverticuli, they disappear, they fibrose over, and they become inactive. So again, a whole food plant-based diet is the key to overcoming diverticulosis, and you want to do it because if you don't, you get pain, you got to take antibiotics, and as I said, you wind up on an operating table if you're lucky. You wind up on the autopsy table if you're not, because these diverticuli can rupture. Fecal material goes out free in the abdomen, you get peritonitis, and that can do you in there. So anyway, again, it sounds like a broken record, but a whole food plant-based diet is the definitive treatment for diverticulosis.
Great, great. Okay, we had a question here.
The benefits, if any, of coconut oil and coconut oil versus any other kind of bread, what is the best of the? Are you talking about consuming coconut oil or using it on skin?
Okay, she's asking about consuming coconut oil, the benefits of it.
Right. There ain't none as far as I know. This whole idea of these, we're the only animal that takes plants that have fat in them and crushes the fat out into a liquid and drinks it. No other animal does this. Coconut's wonderful stuff, and you want to have a piece of raw coconut, cool. I'm not a problem. But you want to eat, and fats are not evil. You need fats. I'm not down on fats, and I know there's this whole lore about coconut oil and medium chain triglycerides and it reverses Alzheimer's and all this stuff, of which there's zero scientific evidence of, as far as I know. But the problem with all these oils is this: when you eat a piece of coconut, there's coconut oil in there, but the micro drops of coconut oil are bound to the fiber of the coconut nut itself. And when you eat a piece of coconut, it takes hours for the digestive enzymes to get into the piece of coconut and start liberating off the micro drops of oil, and then the bile has to emulsify it, and it gets absorbed in very small amounts, very gradually. The blood, the oil, the fat content of the blood goes up very gently over hours, and it's cleared out of the bloodstream. Not a big problem. But you turn that into liquid oil, and that means olive oil too. Same thing with olives. You eat an olive, the olive oil in your bloodstream gets up very slowly. But you pour liquid oil on your food. You take tablespoons of oil directly. That's absorbed immediately. All that fat leaps into your bloodstream, and it has pharmacologic effects. One thing it does, it coats your red blood cells, and they start sticking together. The blood becomes more viscous. Blood viscosity goes up after you eat these liquid oils, including olive oil. Well, the thick blood, 10W40 motor oil, doesn't move very quickly through your capillary beds. Not a good thing. You get sludging in your capillary beds. So what? Well, remember, the red blood cells carry oxygen. They're there to deliver oxygen to your tissues. And they move through very quickly, 25 miles an hour. Those the red cells should go through your capillaries. But if they're all stuck together, if your blood is sludging in those capillary beds, as the red blood cell bearing oxygen enters the capillary beds in your brain, your heart, your kidneys, the retina of your eye, it's moving so slowly that the first brain cells, heart cells, retinal cells have a long time to extract oxygen out of that red cell. By the time that slow moving red cell gets down to the farther parts of your heart, your brain, where the oxygen's gone. And so those poor brain cells, heart cells, liver cells, wind up short of oxygen downstream. There's just one of the pharmacologic effects that eating liquid oils has that they don't want to talk to about when they're promoting their cure of the day. Oh, it's coconut oil. Nothing magic about these oils. Now, fats are needed, but get them out of avocados and walnuts and coconuts and low salt olives. Get your fats out of whole foods, ground flax seeds, ground hemp seeds. Get them out of whole foods, not out of bottles. We really need to see that just because it's a plant source or natural, eat foods like nature grew them in the fields there, and you'll be on the safe side. But I'm not a big fan of any of these liquid oils, and I'd like to see double-blind, placebo-controlled studies showing that they have any beneficial effects. As far as I can see, they don't.
You have a video on that, don't you, where you describe
Yes,
it?
I've got one on my website.
What's it called? We'll see if the library.
It's called Salt, Sugar, and Oil, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I
Okay.
talked about what's the problem with salt, and with sugars and oils in the diet. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll see if the library can get that one for us, and we can check it out because we have Digestion Made Easy. That's in the library as well. Okay, there was
Very
one
good.
more question here. No? Oh,
Not absorbing B12.
not absorbing B12.
There's very few folks who can't absorb it. Now, you may have spawned bacteria in your gut that devour it before it gets down to it's absorbed way down in the small intestine. But one thing to do is get the type that dissolves under your tongue or the liquid that you squirt into the floor of your mouth, and a lot of it is absorbed right through the cheek lining, and you don't have to deal with the intestinal bacteria down there. If you have to for a few months, you get B12 injections, but nobody should really need that. They certainly work. You can give them to yourself, but use don't take a B12 tablet because it bypasses the saliva that helps B12 get absorbed. It goes right down into your intestine and may bypass the proteins in the stomach that also attach to B12 and help you absorb it. So use the type that dissolve right in your mouth, the sublingual microdots or the liquid that you squirt under your tongue, and that usually takes care of the absorption problem.
Great. All right. Well, I think we want to.
All right, more.
On alcohol.
Yeah.
I had an argument with my doctor years ago about I wanted to quit. And he said, oh, no, it's good. It's heart healthy. A man needs 2 drinks a day. Now we've got the American Institute of Cancer Research coming out saying no alcohol because it's connected to cancer. And we've got you saying no alcohol because it hurts the microbiome. So what about all these people say, oh, men need 2 drinks a day. It's heart healthy. Where you go from here when you get that slapped in your face?
What a powerful question. And here I have to take my colleagues to task. In some ways they don't want to alienate their patients, and they're drinking it themselves. They have their own wine with dinner. They're not going to tell their patients not to consume it. But and there were some studies years ago showing that the wine drinkers had a few percent lower risk of heart disease. Well, one, it turns out that what there is in the red wine is our antioxidants, resveratrol, etc. But it's from the grapes. You want those things. Hey, you can drink grape juice. You can eat the grapes. There's no reason that you have to ferment them into alcohol and drink that. And second, it's lazy medicine. Even though, yes, the wine drinkers in France may have had a couple percent fewer heart attacks. What's behind that is the doctors, have your alcohol with dinner, it'll help prevent heart attacks. But meanwhile, you can keep eating your cheeseburgers and your pizzas and your steaks and your chicken. Fine, but have your wine with dinner. It's lazy medicine. Heaven forbid you should talk the truth to these people. Stop running all that saturated fat and oxidized animal protein and sugars and oils and stop running that through your bloodstream. That's what's injuring your arteries. It's the food. Been the food all along. Every doctor should be saying, wearing this in their office, and instead drink your wine. Yeah. and said, "Oh, drink your wine and don't have your heart attack when I'm on call." You know, that's basically.
Fantastic. Why don't we tell him how much we enjoyed this?
Yay, what a wonderful event. Thank you. Thank you. Yay, thank you. Yay.
Thank you so much. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Oh.
Thank you. All the best to you.
Oh, thank
eat
you.
healthy, stay healthy, and you'll live long, healthy lives. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Okay.
Well done.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Special thanks to Dr. Klaper for sharing his time with Chat and Chew, and we do appreciate you joining us for Chat and Chew Online. Join us again by subscribing to our YouTube channel to be alerted when we post another guest speaker video, and check out the ones that are already online, like Dr. Colin Campbell, Dr. Leanne Campbell. Those Skypes are there as well. Good luck to you.